Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. We're going to get started in just a second. I have all sorts of information I want to share with you on tips as we move forward. But I just wanted to start off by asking you, like, if you're in the government contracting space, I'm curious right now for some other content I'd like to write. What's your biggest challenge, if any, right now during the shutdown? Not just in general, but like with the shutdown, are you facing challenges? Or are you just kind of moving forward? Or if you are facing challenges, what are those? Let me know, because I want to try to address challenges in the content I create and the information I share. Okay, I know I got a lot of information I'm going to try to put into 29 minutes here. I'm a little distracted. I got sick kids today, and so back and forth between the doctors type stuff, but all's fine, just normal sick, but it gets me a little distracted. Okay, today I want to talk about I'm calling it momentum in government contracting, but really, what do we do during the government shutdown? We're in week 5 of the government shutdown. These things just happen, and there can be a lot of confusion out there. I think there is. I actually saw somebody make this statement dismissing people who might feel anxiety or struggling during the shutdown. That's the silliest and most arrogant thing I've heard of, right? It's one thing to be prepared, but the evolution of our companies, the maturity of our companies means we can withstand more and more. And so, for example, right now, there might be companies where the 30-day shutdown is not that financially impactful to their business. Certainly large as it might not be a big deal, but push it 60, 90 days. Pretty soon, everybody's going to be in a hurting point. And so dismissing people who might be feeling a little anxiety about what's going on in the shutdown, what to do, that's just rude. And I really don't like that. But it also doesn't have to be overwhelming to us. It can still be anxious. That's totally understandable. But when we have a strategy or some steps in place that we can follow, we can manage some of that anxiety. And that's what I'm hoping to do today is to kind of talk about it. I'm not driving in at the moment, but part of that confusion is which offices are out there, which people are out there that I can talk to, which folks are furloughed and not able to respond or engage. Actually, if I've got any federal employees who are furloughed, I would highly encourage you to engage. You can still engage out there on LinkedIn, et cetera, in a non-official capacity. There's all sorts of people who are share stuff on LinkedIn, leaders within the federal government, federal agencies, who share stuff and they just say, this is not my, I don't speak for the agency. Well, you can still be you. And a lot of your insight would be so useful to industry, and we would love you for it. And we would begin to network with you. And if you ever need us, we'd be there for you. I just did 2 defense conferences last week. So I did a Coast Guard contracting summit, and the Coast Guard has a $14 billion budget roughly, with $25 extra billion that they already got. And they're just waiting to spend over a matter of a few years. I think it's like 2-3 years. So they have to spend it by 28, basically. And then right after that, that was Monday. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, I was doing the Navy contracting summit. And when I say doing it, I was hosting it and speaking at that event. And we had the same kind of challenge that a lot of us are facing, right? We didn't have any of the federal speakers that the event coordinators had expected, but we just turned on a dime. All those speakers felt really bad. They couldn't come. They were senior people. But this stuff just happens. I remember it happening for not a shutdown reason, but at an Air Force conference I was at. Big investment to get down there, got down there into Florida. And the war in Ukraine, Russia's war in Ukraine, started the day the conference started. So all these senior leaders that we were coming to meet, they just had to bolt. They were in the Air Force, and they were definitely thinking that we're on some sort of war footing. So that's these things happen, but I wanted to give you a checklist of things you could do right now that are very productive. What I like to call quadrant 2 from Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He talks about these 4 quadrants of work. And in quadrant 1 and 2, they're important work. And one is urgent, like client responding. And then the other is quadrant 2 is strategic activity. And that's what I want to touch on today as we dive into 5 tips for week 5 of the shutdown. I don't mean to align that title as if we're going to have week 6 and week 7. I hope not. But for the moment, we definitely have to prepare for what's going on out there. So I'm going to break up today's training, as you can see here on my slides, really quickly into I want you to put a 2026 spin on your marketing assets. So I'll talk to you about what those assets are and what do I mean by a spin. The second thing is I want to have you maximize your company's visibility out there. So once you have that spin, where do you put it to be visible to the buyer? Third is I want you to build a lead list of 200 people out there. These are the people that you're going to be pushing into over the next 2, 3, 4 months as you build your presence within your target agency. Number 4, we're going to talk about populating your pipeline. I've done a lot of training on this, and hopefully if FPDS works with me today, I'm going to be able to show you again what I mean. But populate your pipeline with expiring contracts you wish you had won 5 years ago. Well, they're being recompeted. Let's go look at them. And whenever I say things like 5 years, it's a general term. It could be 3 years and it expires in 3 years. It could be 1 year and expires in 1 year. But the ones that you wish you had won that are ready for recompete. That's what I mean for number 4. And then the last one is I want to talk to you about just engaging with buyers on LinkedIn. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, founder of CallPlan AI, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner myself, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. If you follow process A to Z, you have repeatable, predictable results. And this is a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about today is process. Make sure you follow me on LinkedIn. I've got a ton of content I constantly push out that is specific for government contracting success, for federal government contracting success. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about GSA tools. There's a whole bunch of tools that are quasi hidden within the website, et cetera, that I just want to make sure you're aware of. They're not secrets. They're tools that are out there that those of us who are aware of them take advantage of. And I want to make sure that you also can take advantage of them. Give me 1 second, because I remember that one of the things I wanted to show you was how I use ChatGPT. So on one thing, I just want to line it up so it's here when I get ready to share my screen. FPDS, increase bullet, modify, aligning capability statement. There it is. I think that's the one. It is the one. Good. Okay, let me come back to you. There I am. And let's get rocking and rolling with the first step. So I want you to put one of the things you can be doing as you're preparing for 2026 is put a 2026 spin on your marketing assets. There are 6 marketing assets that are out there. If you're not familiar with them or don't familiar enough to rattle them off, they are your small business profile, which is in dsbs.sba.gov, or now a new tool called SBS. They're the same thing, just SBS is a much harder link to say. Then your capability statement, your LinkedIn profile, and your LinkedIn company page, your capabilities briefing deck. So when you're in a meeting, you've got the slides. And then the last thing is your website. These are your marketing assets. And these are the ones that I'm recommending you take a minute and put a 2026 spin on. I know you probably can't see this. Let me kind of zoom in a little bit. But right here, I have this prompt. And I'm going to go in a minute and show you. You can take a screenshot of this. Maybe later on, I'll copy the prompt, or if somebody wants to do that, good luck. But this is the prompt I use, and I'm going to show you the results because it's pretty cool. And it's a way for you to take advantage of ChatGPT to assist you as a marketing expert who can analyze what's going on in the administration and how that applies to you. And I recognize fully that I just came upward instead of downward on my bullets. Don't tell the PowerPoint police. Okay, so before I show you that, because I do want to show you that, what I'm talking about when I say put a 2026 spin on your marketing assets, I mean go in there and look and take into account that in this administration and this year and going into next year, Doge has been prevalent, right? Completely all over us. And then the shutdowns there. Both Doge and the shutdown have something in common, and it's this attack on non-essential needs that the government has, non-essential requirements compared to keeping just essential. And that's a very loose way of me saying what's going on. But basically, when Doge was looking at things, especially in the heyday of months ago, it was really about looking at those essential services and non-essential. And same thing with government shutdown. When the government shuts down, the essential services continue to operate, they even continue to get funded, and the non-essentials don't. That continue to get funded is loose, though, because let's see if the military keeps getting paid. But essential is critical to the mission, and non-essential are things like extra training or headquarter administration activities, like in the headquarters of an agency or something. I have done many, many trainings this year alone on the difference between essential and non-essential, including general listings and then specific to the Army or to HHS, et cetera, that you can go find. Let me find my slide that I'm sharing. I think this is my guy. So in this particular slide, and let me go in a little bit. So this is the prompt I had. And all I did, and Graham's my friend. Anytime I use a company as an example, Graham just lets me do it before I even ask him that I'm doing it. And I never do anything bad. It's always good for them. But so Graham Inc., they might even be on here. They do American Sign Language and administrative support. But what I did, this simple prompt that you can use as well, is tell me if my capability statement reflects the current administration's, Trump, I'm just reminding ChatGPT, the administration's focus on essential versus non-essential requirements. And how might I modify my message to align it with Doge and Trump and the direction of the government right now? I don't kill myself on prompts and trying to make them all prompt engineer-like, right? I speak to ChatGPT and I say, hey, buddy, can you help me out? And I talk to it the same way I would talk to a mentor or something. And when I do, I get really good stuff. So here, the first stuff is talking about how, hey, you're doing pretty good, but it's not yet reflecting the current administration's focus or the emerging stuff. And so here it's coming down and telling me what I need to pay attention to. So it's talking about the current climate, what you want to be paying attention to. Here, they're talking about domestic sourcing, veterans, operational readiness and cost reduction. I say this to people all the time. The government doesn't care about a drone flying over. They care about whether you can reduce the costs or save lives, things like that. Think about that end unit, not what you're selling and the features around it. But anyway, so ChatGPT is telling me this, and I'm not going to read all of it to you because I got a ton to share. So this means agencies are being told to continue on mission critical, to justify the contract renewals around readiness, continuity, and cost saving, et cetera. So here it says, here's your alignment. You're doing pretty good. Here's your strengths. You're talking about operational efficiency and reliability. That fits well with the administration. But here's some gaps you have. And then coming down, hey, Graham, here's some suggested modifications. Revise your about paragraph so it leans less on kind of DEI stuff, since part of what they do is a little bit of inclusion as it relates to deaf communication access, right? And that could be, and so what it's saying is don't lean onto the kind of a DEI way of talking about it. Instead, lean on compliance and continuity, focus on the law that is mandated, et cetera. So again, and then here's optional additional ways to strengthen it. So that prompt, and I'll put it in later if you want me to, but that prompt helps me quickly look at my my marketing material. So you can do that same thing. I'm actually fairly good at this. I've been doing this for a long, long time in the marketing stuff, but just doing that one prompt made me really, really take my game to the next level, because now I look at what ChatGPT said, and I can align it truly to what I do or what I think is good there. So anyways, put AI rocks if you understand the value of AI helping you move faster on things like evaluating your marketing material. Okay. If you haven't been to my training before, I talk really fast, and I think today I'm going to be talking way, way faster. Okay, so I want you to maximize your company's visibility. And so the last slide, I was talking about improving the messaging. Now, where do you put that messaging? And so here I just want to remind you that it goes in your small business profile, and this is a combination of SAM and SBA's dynamic small business search, or what they call a small business search tool now, right? Those two make up your small business profile that all federal buyers have access to. It's an external tool for us, and it's an internal tool for them. The second place I want you to sit there and maximize your visibility is with all the federal agencies that you want to support. So many of them, and I put out like 10 or 20 at least in my newsletters, but so many of them have internal supplier portals that are what they use before they go to the small business profile with SAM and DSBS. So an example is HHS has a huge one out there. Army Contracting Command, they have their own standalone. NASA has a huge one they're really trying to push folks into. The Navy has multiple because it is so big. It's like one of the biggest buyers, if you will, They have multiple across major commands. And so you want to check them out. I put a lot of information into my LinkedIn newsletters where you can find this, but you can also just ask the agency you're targeting. Do you have a supplier portal, a spreadsheet, an email list, a fancy supplier portal? Do you have something like that where I should be registered so your internal buyers can find me? Number 3 is the large prime contractors. Look into your target agency around what you sell and find those large primes that are in there and go register in their supplier portals. Companies that are like a little smaller, larges like SOSI or SOSI, Booz Allen or Lockheed, they all have supplier portals, and you can reach out and ask them about it. How can I get in there? You don't want to register in a construction one necessarily if you're doing cybersecurity. Doesn't mean you shouldn't, by the way, because construction companies need cyber. But if you're trying to do cyber business and get on large primes, then you want to register in there. LinkedIn is a huge place. And when I say register there, what I mean is your personal profile, and I'll show you one in a second, but your personal profile and your company page, you want to register. This is a loose term, way of using register, but you want to go in there and make sure you put your information in your personal profile about your company so it can be discovered. And similar, not as much, but inside your company, you still have places to do that, your company profile. I don't know if my sister's on today, but Cecilia McDonald is my sister. She's been helping all of us since 2018 when I started the GovCon Chamber, but she runs an organization specifically to strategies for GovCon in LinkedIn. So definitely check her out and talk to her about it. She's got a lot of good content that'll help you. Otherwise, you can pay for her services. Little plug for my sister. And then the website, right? Go to your website last, not first. And on your website, make sure you have your 2026 assets out there and refreshed. Okay, so by the way, put visibility rocks. I really want to pump up the chat and let people who are not here yet understand that this is a good training for them to come in and find all these good tips. But visibility rocks if you understand you need to be visible and make it easier for federal buyers to find you. Okay, the next thing I want you to do, tip 3, is to build a lead list of at least 200 people, right? If I was actually doing it and I was farther along, I might make it 300 or 400 people. This is your lead list. Some people call it a campaign, like I've got all these people and I'm going to follow up with them. What I'm recommending is that you choose one agency at a time. Don't bounce around to different places. Just pick an agency and try to drive into that one agency. Build a list of 200 people across government and industry. And what I mean by this is inside the federal government, you can find all sorts of federal buyers, and I'll talk about those in a second, or you can find people who are in there, small businesses and large businesses who are already in there winning. You want to team up with them. At the very least, you just want to build relationships so that you can talk and ask questions. You know, hey, Johnny, I see that you're in there. Do you mind if I pick your brain, buy you a cup of coffee so I can ask about DHS as an example? I put in here, I want you, when you're looking at industry and the government, look across the 3 different entry points. We call these sales entry points into an agency, but there's focuses of receptivity. These are people who are nice and willing to kind of help you with information or introductions. Then there's focuses of dissatisfaction. These are the program offices generally who have the problem or the challenge, or they have a goal they're trying to achieve, something new, right? And then the last one is the focuses of power. These are contracting officers generally, contract specialists, cores might slide in there. Focuses of receptivity, that tends to be like small business professionals to start, and then just anybody. Like a lot of times I'll meet people at a conference and they're working over in this program office, which has nothing to do with where I'm at, but they're nice. And we build a relationship. I'm like, hey, Johnny, can I talk to you? Apparently everybody I meet today is Johnny. Okay, so these groups of people, though, when you start looking at it, you can build relationships pretty fast. You know, if you just take government and industry and you go, well, there you go, 100 each to start, because you're trying to get into the agency and this lead list is going to lead that in there. I'm watching my time and I know I'm going to run out. So I'm not going to show you how to do this just because I know I've got at least 50, if not 100 different trainings over the 1,000 I've done in the last 3-4 years that are specifically about how do I build a list. And so just go into my YouTube channel or right here on LinkedIn and type in targeting. And if you type in targeting in my content, it'll come up with all sorts of past trainings I've done. And then later on, if I remember, I'll try to put a couple into the chat. So you have to come back to the comments to find that. But I want to make sure I'm moving forward to the last 2 slides. Really quick before I move on, I wanted to thank Voltron for sponsoring our training today and being our sponsor going forward. I'm super excited to be working with them because they value the content I'm bringing. They understand it's valuable to industry across the board, whether you're just getting started or you're in a billion-dollar firm. And I really target small businesses, right? But the information I provide is spot on. Definitely check out Voltron. They are experts in the federal space on AI proposal writing. So there's a lot of stuff going on, which are great tools out there. The part that I like about Voltron is their super tight focus, which enables them to take something from a solicitation to an early draft that's compelling and compliant in minutes instead of weeks. And so that's pretty exciting. At the very least, do me a favor and say thanks, Voltron, into the chat if you appreciate the fact that they're helping me come here every single day. Okay, I got 9 minutes, so I'm still moving pretty fast. I want you to populate, what do I want? Oh, your sales pipeline. By the way, sorry, you can't see this, but on my screen, I look at the slide, but for some reason, the title's hidden. I'm like, what was my title? Little inside baseball there. Anyways, I want you to populate your sales pipeline with expiring contracts. This is a perfect time to be doing it, both during the shutdown is a great time because it's lining up all these opportunities when they come back you can talk to them about. But also just at the end of 2026 or 2025, you want to make sure your pipeline is filled with enough opportunities to pursue in 2026 that will lead to the revenue goals you have. So the first thing I recommend, and I'm going to go in and show you how I find these opportunities. The first thing is make sure you know what you sell. And I know this sounds silly, but I was at that conference last week, and the number of people who would stand up and say that they sell software development, cybersecurity, data, cloud, like they would list those things out. I'm like, Booz Allen barely does that. They're a billion-dollar firm with tens of thousands of employees, right? We small businesses need to have a specialty. I'm going to use, I'm using Graham in my head, not on the screen, but I know they do staffing, right? And in there, you narrow it down, even them narrowing it down to, am I staffing for cybersecurity? Am I staffing for healthcare? That's a niche that when you do that, you can do a lot more searching inside of FPDS, but I'll show you what's there. I put here the term identified is what some people use in government contracting, saying it's identified. I prefer unqualified. Like if I'm finding opportunities that look interesting to me based on title and a quick description, then I've identified them as an unqualified lead. And my next job is to qualify them. Do they meet the target opportunities that we're looking for? I did put here a warning that FPDS is up, it's down, it's up, it's down. Let's go find out whether it's up or down. Come on, don't make me. Oh, good. I have all my screens open. I learned this lesson because I could still go live if I wanted, but they're all. I mean, it is live, but they're already pre-done. So just really quickly, what I'm showing you here is over here the search criteria that I use, and you can watch. I've done tons of FPDS training, so you learn the tool. But here I'm just showing. In 2026, January 1st to December 31st, I said, go find me anything that in the description says staffing. And so when I did that, you can see there's 1,687, so 1,687 opportunities out there. This one here is $40 million. I bet if I clicked in there, it'd be more. But as I go through, I can find these opportunities. You can filter this down more, which I did here. So in this case, I'll just tell you what I did. In this case, I filtered it by HHS. I said, hey, I'm trying to just look at HHS. There's 104 staffing, and I have to click on the description, which I'll show you in a minute, to see that more. But there's 104 opportunities that are staffing related. And so I'm going to go in and figure out what they look like. If you see right here, this award ID kind of matches the one that's above it. So that 104 will shrink down for sure because there's different option years and things like that. But every agency, I can begin to look and imagine if I do staffing, how many opportunities do I need my pipeline to be able to achieve the revenue I'm looking for? I expect out of 100, I probably can find 20 good ones in here. Okay, another search. This time I got rid of HHS and I said, filter down the main staffing contracts expiring next year by NAICS code. And I said, 5416. And by doing that, let me see if I can show you up here. If you see 5416 star, it's getting a couple of those NAICS codes that are semi-related that I just know are being used for staffing. And so I filter it down. I'm like, okay, here's administrative support. Maybe those type of opportunities align to what I'm looking for. Well, that gave me 800 across the federal government. That is a perfect place for me to begin to dig into. And the last thing I'll show you is if I clicked on one of those opportunities, what I'm doing is trying to filter them down. So I'm looking at this going, well, this is pretty nice. It's a Department of Commerce opportunity where my friends at Graham have a contract. It's $35 million. And if I scroll down here, well, actually, if I pause one place, so here it's a service disabled veteran owned, but ironically, it's not a small business anymore. So maybe Graham can go in there with a teaming partner or two and try to land it. But this is what I want to show you, right? It says staffing support. That's not enough information for me to know the scope and blah, blah, blah. I'm totally with you, but it does tell me I got a chance, right? So if you're familiar with Dumb and Dumber, when I'm looking at that, I can see that I have a chance because it says staffing support. And for Graham, it's ideal because it's at Commerce. And so I want you to do that same thing, is go into FPDS and find your expiring contracts. Again, I have done many trainings that you can go find that dig right into this. How do I find opportunities? How do I find opportunities in FPDS? So here today, I'm just trying to give you quick high-level tips. And the last thing is engage on LinkedIn. And I'm going to try to show you that really quick. Basically, the buyers are out there, right? And so you can see this slide, but I really want to go over and show you just in case you haven't got onto LinkedIn too much and seen it. But I just came in here, and inside of LinkedIn, I did this search where I said, show me posts and the latest, and I'm saying sort by latest. And then from companies, because I'm trying to target the Army, let's say, I just started choosing Army stuff. So if I come in here, I can add another one, Army. Let me scroll down a little bit, find some other ones. Oh, here's, so I did, so here's Army Network Engineering or whatever it is, Network Enterprise, right? I can't remember the acronym, but that's a good solid one in here. Well, I can start finding these guys and scrolling down. And what I mean by engagement, look at this. This came out a month ago from the Army Contracting Command. And they're talking about lapse of appropriation. So this is about the shutdown, but it doesn't matter. Only one person gave it an engagement, but you could put a comment in here. Hey, thanks a lot for sharing this information. Looking forward to the government shutting or opening up again so we can start supporting you again, right? Only positive and engaging comments. No fluff and no negativity. But really quickly, you can see this stuff. And just as a reminder of how I got there, if I go home, the way I did it is I clicked here and I just hit enter. I didn't type anything in. Then I click post, and I know this is very quick. I'm saying sort by latest, show results. And then over here, content type member, all filters. I'm coming down to where it says, where's the company right there. And so I can type in like Army as an example, right? So I click Army, show results, and now I'm seeing that filter. I know that was very, very fast, so come back and watch the replay. Let me come back here really quick and wrap up with my slides. So I quasi say, oh, I got 2 minutes. That's like a ton of time for me. Hopefully that makes sense. Watch the replay. You can see it. Ping me if you want in the chat and ask me a question. But here's what I want you to remember from today's training, because I'm trying to give you 5 tips, right, that we can be doing right now at the end of the year and also during the shutdown, which is a little bit of a slowdown for the government. So keep in mind that if the government buyer can't, or teammates can't find you, they can't buy from you, they can't put you on their team. So maximize your visibility, both in what you say and where you're found by the buyers. Second thing is remember inbound versus outbound sales. I didn't talk about this today, but inbound is when they knock on your door. Outbound is when you knock on their door. You can only do 1% or far less outbound. So the 99% of your sales activities has to come from inbound. You need to increase the number of times people call you and you're like, yeehaw, they called me, right? That's inbound sales. You need to be visible for that. And the last one is get the slam dunk opportunities in your pipeline. And in this particular case, I'm just recommending the expiring contracts. These are what we call recompete contracts that there's a fairly good chance that the government's going to keep going. You need to get them in your pipeline so you can start calling them and get that data, and most importantly, find out if they are going to do that. Okay, just remember tomorrow's training, hidden GSA tools. Love to have you there. I don't have a lot of time to talk about Call Plan AI, which is my company, but I'd love to have you over there. I'm available 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock every day to my subscribers on Zoom. They can ask me any questions they want. We try to keep it to the call plan, but frankly, any question they want to ask, I'm totally open to answering. So come join me over there. For now, just remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is having a good day. I hope you do.